One thing we did with our kids was no conversation was ever off limits. Like, our kids could ask us anything about anything.
You mentioned before we got on that your youngest is 21 now. So you've transitioned all of them into young adulthood, and you're a grandfather now. And I'm right at the door of that. My oldest is 18. She's graduating from high school. By the time this airs, she'll have graduated. Tell me about that transition. And then more importantly, what were you and Kara doing to ensure that as they grew, they would be growing into faithfulness in serving the Lord and walking with Him?
Yeah, man. I'll just throw out a few things and please, anybody watching, I'm not, Kara and I are very careful about saying we do not have it all figured out. And the Lord was so gracious because we did so many things that I wish we had done different, but we were blessed to have great examples to learn from. The Bartons were a huge influence on our marriage and on the way we raised our children. Our parents, we come from good families and grandparents that sowed into us. So we've had kind of an unfair advantage in that, and we tried to make the most of that. Zig Ziglar was a big influence on my life and one of my mentors, and he had this great series, actually, that his son Tom let us license to us so we could distribute it to a new generation, called How to Raise Positive Kids in a Negative World. And man, I stole so much from that in terms of little golden nuggets of, literally even how to put the kids to bed and things to say in the morning when they wake up and ways to wake up your kids to have a good environment that day and just little things like that. So we really did have an unfair advantage. But I will say this transition into this new season, and I don't mean this as a platitude, this is absolutely the truth. I loved being a dad, but Grandpa is the best job on the planet. You saw before we started recording, my grandson came in and brought me some coffee, and it is the best job on the planet. And I think what the best part of it is not just the how much you love your grandkids and how much you love watching them. It's watching your kids be parents. That is the coolest thing on the planet, especially if they have stayed, serving the Lord and they're raising their kids in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. There is no greater joy, my man. It is phenomenal. So now, setting all that up, I'll say a couple things that might be golden nuggets that people can grab a hold of. One thing we did with our kids was no conversation was ever off limits. Like, our kids could ask us anything about anything, and we tried really hard to not be like, "Where'd you hear that?" or "How'd you?" It was immediately like, "Oh, well, let's talk that through." Always just working overtime to make sure they knew the lines of communication were always open. Always being quick to apologize to our kids when we screwed up, which, like I said, I did a lot. And so, if I ever lost my temper or I had a pastor at the time when my kids were young that taught me that. He was like, don't think your kids are too young to understand forgiveness and forgiving you if you do something that is out of line. And so that was I think really helped with the relationship building with them. Mm-hmm. And then as they got older and could handle even tougher topics, especially with my boys, having the time around the fire, the deep discussions, admitting my faults, being able to talk about, mistakes I had made and wanting them to not, and there's a time for that. Like, I don't want anybody to hear this and say, "Oh, I'm going to go tell my 6-year-old about every stupid thing I did in my life." That's not what I'm saying. There's a time, have discernment. But that was really important for us. And then just trying really hard to, through those conversations and through the not overreacting whenever, if they messed up and they brought something to you or whatever, to keep that relationship open. Genuinely investing for a couple of decades in each of them, praying to God that when they decided they possibly met the right person, that our opinion would matter, right? That they would want our input and confirmation from not only us but their siblings. This is a good fit. This makes sense. This is the Lord's in this. Instead of just, I feel the hair standing up and I feel the emotions and I want to go marry this person, that they actually had confirmation within the family. And so far, 2 for 4, man. Got 2 amazing daughter-in-laws, and thrilled with the decisions that our oldest 2 have made, and our youngest 2 are not in a relationship. But when that happens, I know from the conversations we've already had, they will come to us and they'll want to know genuinely what we think. I think, Garrett, that is one of the best measurements of, despite all the mistakes we make in those 2 decades, that on balance, the relationship was strong enough that they would want that biggest decision they're going to make other than serving the Lord they would want us to be involved in that. So that's way more than you wanted. I know I wasn't here to write a book on parenthood, and I always said I wouldn't answer any of those questions until my kids were grown, so I could see how it turned out.
Perfect. Right? Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Well, I thank you. I'll tell you, Rick, I'm at that stage right now where it's just over the line, just over the horizon. I can almost taste it, and I can't wait. I love that we're entering that season with our girls, and I just can't wait. So thank you. This episode of Rapid Response was brought to you by CTC Math. Visit them at ctcmath.com today.